What's up guys, Matt Day here, and today we're going to be talking about a camera that I've been wanting to shoot for a long time, and that's the Mamiya 7. So if you guys didn't watch my vlog earlier this week, I kind of talked about a little bit of a deal I have with Midwest Photo Exchange. Basically what I'm going to be doing is renting some of their used gear in exchange for making a video. So I rented this camera, I've had it for a week now, and I have to take it back, which is kind of unfortunate because I'm really enjoying this camera. But yeah, I rent the stuff for about a week and then I'll take it back. I'll put together a video to kind of give some more content for you guys, but at the same time it's going to basically get some new eyes on Midwest Photo Exchange because it's an awesome shop up in Columbus and they have an absolutely massive inventory, especially with their film equipment. There's all kinds of stuff in there, so I'm really excited about it because I get to shoot some cameras that I don't personally own, and this is a camera that I've been wanting to shoot with for a long time. So whenever I basically came up with the agreement with Midwest Photo Exchange, this was definitely the first one on my list that I absolutely had to rent. But if you're not familiar with the Mamiya 7 at all, what this is a medium format rangefinder that shoots 6x7 negatives, so that's why it's called the Mamiya 7. Now I did get to shoot this camera around town and really give it a real world review, so that way it's not just me talking here at the desk. You know, I want to be able to get more of that kind of stuff in these videos because I do think that really does add to the review, and that way you guys can see the actual camera in action. But before we do that, I am going to kind of give you guys just a good overlook of the camera just so you can get a better idea of what it's all about. Okay, just to give you a quick overview of the camera, it's a really simple camera, but it does have some interesting features that we can talk about. So obviously on the top you have your shutter speed dial, which goes from 1/500th of a second all the way to 4 seconds, or bulb if you'd like to do long exposures. And you also have aperture priority options. So if you want to set your aperture and then just put it on aperture priority, the camera's going to choose your shutter speed for you. Now over here on the side, speaking of long exposures, you do have the option to use a threaded cable release for long exposures, which is convenient. That just screws in right here because the shutter button doesn't have it built right into it. But one thing I like about the shutter button is the fact that it does have a lock on it, so you're not going to accidentally bump any frames. All you have to do is just set it to the red dot and it's not going to be locked up, but then whenever you unlock it, you're ready to shoot. Also in the shutter speed dial you have your film speed selector, so basically that's just going to control the meter in here. It's going to let you know exactly what to meter for. Now on the side of the shutter speed dial you also have exposure compensation, which I don't personally use this, but I know a lot of people do, and it's nice to have this because you have +2 or -2 on the exposure compensation, which is 2 stops either direction, and it also has 3rd stop increments, which is nice for really fine-tuning things. Right here you have your film advance, pretty standard, and you also have a hot shoe, which is really convenient because with this being a leaf shutter camera, you're going to be able to sync at 1/500th of a second, the maximum shutter speed, which is faster than most SLRs and pretty much all modern DSLRs as well. So that's your top of the camera, pretty simple stuff. Right here you have your viewfinder, and on the back you have basically where you would put any kind of reminder basically of what film you're shooting. It's also going to let you know whether you're shooting 120 or 220. Now to open the camera on the side here, you just push in on this button and pull this lever down and the back pops open. Pretty much looks like any medium format rangefinder or even SLR. Just pull it right across and it's that simple. You have these little orange tabs, and basically this drops these 2 pins on the bottom, and what that's going to let you do is put in your film spool, and then it'll lock it into place. So you pull that over and you see that pin drops down just like over here, and that one drops down underneath here. So once you set your spools in there, this will actually lock it into place, so that way they're good and secure. Now over here you have your pressure plate, which shows 120 or 220 and 135. So depending on what film you're shooting, you want to adjust that, but the 135 there means 35mm film. So what you can actually do is shoot 35mm film in here with a panoramic adapter, and that's going to let you shoot panoramic photos with this on a roll of 35mm film. Now, I actually didn't get a chance to do this because I didn't have the adapter with it, but I would absolutely love to. I've seen some awesome results from that, and I'm pretty bummed I didn't get a chance to do it, but for those of you who are looking into picking up one of these, that would absolutely be a nice, basically a nice plus to owning this camera, the fact that you kind of get a 2-in-1 kind of deal. Now, on the bottom of the camera, you have your tripod mount, which is pretty standard. It's a 1/4-20, which is the standard for tripods. And over here, like I mentioned earlier, you have your 2 little, basically, tabs that pop down whenever you're loading the film. Over here you've got where you would load the battery, and right here, this is what I didn't know what this was for whenever I was kind of looking over the camera. Didn't understand what that was. Whenever I went to take off the lens, all you have to do is just push in right here and the lens will turn, but right now you can see it's locked. Now what this does is you rotate it this way, and you can kind of hear almost like a little shutter curtain being pulled. So now that you do that, I can take the lens off, and when I open it up, on the back here, you'll see this curtain being pulled, or this curtain has been pulled, because that's not the shutter, that's basically just a cover for your film. This is something that is pretty obvious as to why you would need it, because this is a leaf shutter camera, and you know, whenever the shutter is open, obviously the film, and whenever I take the lens off, there's no shutter back there to cover it up. So whenever you take the lens off there, you would just be exposing the film. So if you're going to be shooting with multiple lenses and you take the lens off mid-roll, you don't want to waste all the film in there. You don't want to expose that. So that's what that little curtain does. And whenever you go to shoot, you can't actually shoot without unlocking that. So you're not going to be basically just exposing a black curtain the whole time. So that's a nice thing that it does lock, and all you have to do to reset it, pull this down and pull it over, and it'll automatically basically flip it back, and now that curtain has been pulled back and you're ready to shoot. So really simple thing, and pretty self-explanatory as to why you would need that. But I didn't even think about that whenever I first picked up the camera. That was something that hadn't even crossed my mind. So that's pretty much the whole camera. You've got your strap mounts right here, but yeah, it's a really, really simple camera, and that's one thing I love about it. But with that being said, you've kind of got a better idea as to what the camera is and how it works. Now we're going to go ahead and head out and do some shooting. So we're downtown in Chillicothe right now, and we're going to go ahead and take the Mamiya 7 out, and I haven't really shot with it yet. I shot a couple rolls around the house, but that's not really a full test of the camera, so I want to put it out in the real world setting, actually get to shoot some film with it and see how I like it. And right now I can't really speak to the quality of the film scans or anything, because I haven't developed anything yet. So this is really just going to be all about first impressions. So I'm going to talk about how shooting the camera feels, any kind of things that I'm coming across as I'm shooting it, things to think about, or things that I find interesting while I'm shooting. But yeah, other than that, we're just going to walk around, do some shooting. I wouldn't really call this street photography. A lot of people online, that's a very touchy subject. People think if it's street photography, it has to be seeing how close you can get to a stranger and then taking a photo. That's not really my thing. I just want to walk around town, see what I can find, make some photos, and that's it. I'm not really trying to put a label on it or anything. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and start walking around and see what we come up with. So we'll go ahead and load up some film. I'm going to be shooting some HP5 in here, and normally I push HP5 to 1600, but in this case, because we're out shooting in daylight, I'm going to be sticking to 400 speed. So go ahead and open this up. Here on the side, there's this little button. Kind of push that in, pull this down, back springs open. And on the bottom here, these little orange tabs, you kind of click these over, and that basically releases these little pins, so that way we can load the film. Normally this spool would be over here on this side whenever you finish a roll, but I went ahead and put it over there already. And so yeah, this is how you load it. Pretty simple stuff. Open up my film here. Haven't really mastered this one yet, so bear with me. All right, lock that into place. Drag this over and line it up in there. And that's simple. So then we want our start arrow to be right there with this little arrow up here at the top. And then we close it. And then we'll give it a couple winds. And now we're on frame 1. So now we can actually go ahead and start shooting. Usually I like shooting whenever it's a little bit later in the evening, just because the light isn't directly overhead. You can get a little bit more shadows and a little bit more interesting light whenever I'm out shooting. That's kind of the stuff I'm looking for. But given the time frame that we really had to shoot today, only had a small amount of time, got a lot of stuff going on this week, and I don't have endless amount of time with this camera, so got to make do with it. But we'll be able to find something. Sometimes you just gotta walk and walk and walk before you find anything.
Are you filming yourself?
Yeah.
What's up, up, dude?
How you doing?
How are you? What are you doing?
Doing
Don't film us.
Making a video.
Doing some stuff at Totem.
Well, we met down there. We were just kind of walking around, but that's really about it.
Sweet.
Yeah. Anybody want their picture taken? Or you would?
Yeah.
Awesome. Here we go. What's that?
Pay a quarter. YouTube.
Pay a quarter.
Yeah, forget your
Come on
picture
in
taken.
if you want to.
Well, back when I was,
Karen and Alan.
alive,
Yeah.
it used to cost a quarter to have a picture taken.
This one's on the house.
This one's on.
This
the
one's
house.
on the house.
Is this going to steal my soul?
No, not this one. This one
It's
here
not going
won't.
to steal my soul.
Not this one. I've seen those kind, but this one shouldn't be.
I'm looking like Maximilian on a bad hair day.
Hey, I like that.
You
I
do?
like that. If I could grow it like that, I would, but mine's already patchy
The
enough.
trouble is, I lie on my right side.
Yeah, so when you get
And
up,
so
it's...
it's just, it's unmanageable. And Lord knows what happened to this, sort of like here today, gone tomorrow.
Right, yeah. Well, I think it looks good. I like it.
You do?
Yeah, I like the rings here too. These are awesome.
Oh, well, they're very special.
Yeah?
This is from someone who now has a court order against me.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I can't even go in front of the house that used to be ours. But I
Gee.
can't say that because it could be a felony. No, I can
Jeez.
say that. I still have First Amendment.
There you go.
I just can't use abusive speech, which I
Right.
wouldn't.
No, of course not.
It's like, I'm charming when I'm on my medication,
Yeah.
and I'm sort of like the bat out of hell when I'm not.
Everybody has that side, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's a Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. I think I'll just get a shot of you just sitting right here as you are. Let's see. Just as you are, yeah.
Can I use this on my obituary?
Sure. If you'd like it, do you have an email that I could send the picture to?
I do.
You do? Yeah. I'd be happy to send you a copy of it. Absolutely. Or I could even mail an actual print of it. Yeah. I'll get all your information here before we leave. So let me see here. Set that right there, and well, let me see here.
Take the glasses off or on?
Actually, leave the glasses on. I like the glasses. Right there. Perfect. Let me get back just a little bit further away, and
I just don't have young people kneel to me.
that's all right. Right there. Perfect. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. It was good to meet you. Yeah. He was. That was interesting.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. He had a lot to say,
Yeah, you did.
and I don't know. That was really cool, though. I've asked a million people for their photos, and only a couple of times do they ever actually agree to it, A lot of times it's no, I don't want any of that. And a lot of people, especially nowadays, are paranoid. Everything is, out to get them. Anything that's, related to a camera or the internet. A lot of the older generation, especially, tend to get really paranoid. But no, that guy was awesome. That was really cool. I'm excited to see how that one turns out. Shooting with a 65 millimeter. This is a wide lens for a 6x7. I don't know off the top of my head. It's somewhere around a 28 millimeter, I think. 28 millimeter, maybe 35 millimeter, but I think it's closer to 35. Or I'm sorry, I think it's closer to 28 millimeters. So yeah, that's interesting whenever I'm shooting a portrait of somebody, because normally I like to stick with, at least 35, if not a 50 millimeter. So you really have to kind of get in a little bit closer and make a little bit more use of your surroundings, because you can't just, rely on cropping things out or relying on, rendering things out of focus. So yeah, that's really interesting. So yeah, we'll go ahead and keep walking, keep shooting. It's kind of interesting light over here. All right. So right here, the fact that the camera has a internal light meter, I'm not sure how accurate it is, but we'll find out. So right now, whenever I'm looking through here, I'm metering for, I'm metering for the highlights, and it's recommending that I stop the lens down. So f8 at 500 for the highlights. Well, now the clouds are moving, so it's changing a little bit. But right there, it's saying f8 at 500. The shadows are saying f8 at 125. So we'll go with 250 here and kind of split the difference. And we'll see what we come up with. Shoot this vertically. Right there, 1, 2, 3. Actually, I'll take a couple shots. I'll shoot one landscape orientation as well. 1, 2, 3. I don't know why I'm counting down so that the stairs don't move or blink, I guess. But that's a habit. And as you can see, a lot of people that do street photography, they're in places where there's tons of people and it's all about people, you know? Whereas whenever we're walking around Chillicothe and shooting, you know, we just met with that guy and had a conversation and talked to him, but then we could walk for another 20 minutes and not run into another single person. So let's walk down here. About there. There we go. Huh. Yeah, this light meter, it's really jumpy, so it must be really center pointed. You know, it might be like a really fine spot meter. I'm assuming anyway, because I can move it just the tiniest amount and it'll give me a different reading. So I guess the way to shoot with this, because it's that way, is you know, we'll kind of basically guide the center of the frame all around the whole scene, kind of see what everything's reading at, and then try to get it somewhere there in the middle. So we got 500, 250, 125 a little bit. Yeah, we'll stay right about there. Awesome. With this being a leaf shutter as well, it's really, really quiet, so that's nice. A lot of times, especially if I am out in town and I'm going to be shooting a photo of somebody, although this isn't really a small camera, it's a really quiet camera. And you know, sometimes, especially with a louder camera like a Pentax 6.7 or a Hasselblad, got that really loud mirror flap in there, and something quiet like this, it's sort of non-threatening. It would be even more so if it was a smaller camera, but still, it's not a you know, massive camera by any means. So let's see here. This viewfinder, I'm finding out, or not the viewfinder, the rangefinder, it's a little bit off. Not in the focusing sense, but the little patch in there, vertically, it's a little bit misaligned, which won't affect the focus, but it does make it a little bit harder to focus with, just because that thing does need repaired. So not a big deal, but still, it's especially whenever I'm framing, you know, with the camera vertically, a little bit hard to focus. So I'm finding myself having to focus this way and then adjust accordingly. So nah, sat there and looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, but no point in taking it. I know I won't like it later. Pretty cool. 500 f4. Shoot one more. Maybe. No, actually, tell you what, I'll get a shot of you. Get a shot of Josh here. All right, Josh. Have you stand right here and you can just still be holding the camera. So you hold the camera right there. Focus this. Wow. Minimum focus distance on this thing is not much. All right. Right. Let me see. Right there. All right. 1, 2, 3. So just to give some, you know, some final thoughts, I guess, on my first impression of the camera, I have no complaints really. Other than the rangefinder in this camera, like I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit off, which I'm sure just a simple repair would take care of that. It's not really a trait of this, you know, camera in general, just this specific one. So that's really the only thing that I've found difficult though while I'm shooting. Everything else is really nice. I mean, it's really simple. You've got your shutter speed. You do have exposure compensation right here. I don't use it. I've never been one to use exposure compensation, but you do have that option there. Yeah, other than the fact that with it being a rangefinder, I can't really get in as close as I would like to, like with an SLR, but that's not really a characteristic of this camera, it's just rangefinders in general. They're known to have a much farther focus distance whenever you're at the closest you can be, rather than, you know, say an SLR. So really not a big deal though. As far as the camera itself, this is insanely comfortable to shoot with. I had seen photos of the camera online all over the place, and I'd seen photos of this grip and it looked comfortable, but this thing is insanely comfortable. Once you get it in your hand, I could shoot with this camera all day, and I plan on doing that, you know, over the next week. So yeah, really fun to use. You know, a lot of people like this camera, especially for street photography. They like rangefinders for street photography, and I get that. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this, you know, I wouldn't really consider this street photography. This is just me out shooting photos while we're walking around town. Nothing groundbreaking by any means, but you know, I wanted to actually get out of the house and actually record some of my first impressions rather than just, you know, write everything down and then do the video later. So other than that, that's pretty much it for you know, my first impressions out shooting this, but you know, I'm definitely going to be shooting a lot more film with this over the next week. That way I can give it a little bit more of a full review. All right, so there you guys got to see my first impressions with the camera, actually shooting it out in the real world, and I had a lot of fun with that. It was a nice challenge for me to both be out shooting and also kind of talking about my thoughts out loud and be followed around with the camera. So it was interesting, but I had a lot of fun with that, and I hope you guys enjoyed that part as well, because, you know, I do want to incorporate more stuff like that. So if you guys want to see more of it, please let me know. But in the last week that I've had this camera, I've shot about 10 rolls of film, and that meant a lot of developing and a lot of scanning. So now I actually have some photos to share. So now we can take a look at some of my favorite photos that I've come up with in the last week with the Mamiya 7. So that was my experience with this Mamiya 7 for the last week, and like I've mentioned earlier in the video, this thing is an absolute blast to shoot with. It's really, really enjoyable, and especially if you're a rangefinder kind of person, which I've always been a big fan of rangefinders, really enjoyed shooting with this thing. So there's a lot to talk about, and I could go on and on about this camera because it is just such, you know, an enjoyable camera to shoot with. But just to really kind of summarize things, as far as the lenses go, there's a lot of lenses out there, and I was only able to shoot with the 65mm. I've heard amazing things about the 80mm, and I really would like to shoot with that at some point, but the 65mm in general, I actually like that field of view, especially for kind of the documentary style stuff that I would do with this camera. And in all honesty, I've shot a lot of different Mamiya cameras over the years. I've owned the RB67, the RZ, the C330, the Mamiya 645, a lot of different Mamiya lenses and cameras, and I've known that a lot of people would really recommend these lenses as being some of the sharpest lenses out there that Mamiya has to offer. And I'm not a big stickler about, you know, how sharp a lens is. You guys know I don't really get fixated on that kind of stuff, but I was blown away whenever I was scanning the film in. This thing is insanely sharp, and I'm only scanning on a V600, so if these were professionally scanned, I'm sure that they would just be absolutely insane. So the lenses in general, there's a lot of options out there, but as far as sharpness, you're not going to be lacking any kind of sharpness with these lenses. As far as the ergonomics of the camera go, this thing is absolutely perfect in the hand. I don't know if I've ever shot a more comfortable camera, in all honesty. the way this grip is made right here, the way it's shaped, it fits perfectly, and I love the fact that the shutter release button is kind of sitting at an angle, almost like what you would see on most modern DSLRs. It's not up here on top. It's right there, perfect for your finger. It's just really, really comfortable to shoot with. And I love the weight of the camera. It's not insanely heavy, but it's not light either. And one thing I like to do, or one thing I really like about rangefinders in general, having that leaf shutter, you can shoot really slow shutter speeds handheld. And the fact that it has a little bit of a nice weight to it, where it's not too heavy or too light, it just feels good and solid. In my opinion, it's easier to shoot a slower speed whenever you have something a little bit heavier, just because it's not so, flimsy basically. It doesn't feel like you're just kind of shaking it all over the place. So really enjoy the ergonomics of this camera. Like I said, it's perfectly balanced. I don't have any complaints whatsoever about the way this camera feels. As far as the features of the camera go, it's really minimal, and that's one thing I absolutely love about the camera, just because I like my cameras to be really simple and I don't have to fumble around with too much. I just want to be able to pick it up and start shooting. And I really like the way the camera's laid out. You have your exposure compensation if you want to use that. I don't personally use it, but it is there if you'd like it. But I like the fact that, it isn't an extra dial. It just sits underneath the shutter speed dial, so it's out of the way. You do have your self-timer, which is convenient. I know my wife and I do appreciate that, because a lot of times whenever we're out traveling, I want to be able to get a shot. I don't really want to hand a film camera to somebody because they don't often know exactly how to use them. It's not really, like handing them a DSLR. So having a self-timer, it's a little thing, but it is appreciated. The fact that you do have a lock on the shutter up here, that is convenient as well, because I am constantly putting a camera in and out of a bag, and I've basically wasted 1,000,000 frames at this point probably on all sorts of different cameras just from accidentally bumping the shutter button. So actually having a shutter lock, I do really appreciate that. The fact that the camera does have a light meter in there is also convenient, because even if you can get away without using a meter, it's always nice to just have that extra confirmation in there that you are actually getting the correct exposure. And not every medium format camera has a light meter in it, especially a lot of the medium format SLRs. Oftentimes you have to get an extra prism that actually has the meter inside of that. So the fact that this has it built into the camera, like I said, even if you don't need it, it is nice to have. But that pretty much covers my Mamiya 7 review and my time with the camera. I've said it 1,000,000 times, and I absolutely loved shooting with this camera. So if you're interested in picking up a Mamiya 7, I would definitely recommend it. They're a little bit on the pricey side, but from my personal opinion, you get what you pay for with this sort of thing. Now, if you guys would like to pick up this one in particular, I'm going to put the link from Midwest Photo Exchange down in the description below, so you can click on that and then you'll find all their information, and you can give them a call and actually pick this up, because by the time this video is up, this will be back on the shelf over at Midwest and it'll be ready to be purchased. So if you guys have any questions or comments for me about this camera or the review in general, please leave those below in the comments. I'm always looking for feedback, especially on a video like this. I tried to get a little bit more involved with it, and especially with the whole first impressions thing while we're walking around town, I'm anxious to hear what you guys think. So if you like the video, please be sure to like it and share it with your friends, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Got a lot of stuff on the way. I'm trying to do at least one video a week, and you guys heard me in the beginning of this video. I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff with Midwest Photo Exchange, but at the same time, all the usual content will still be here, so it'll be gear reviews, thoughts for photographers, stuff like that. And I guess now I'm going to be doing vlogs as well, because you guys seem to really enjoy the video I put up earlier this week. So now I'm going to be doing that too. So thank you guys for everything. I really do appreciate it. I'm having a blast running this channel, and it's become way more than I ever expected it to. So with that being said, thank you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.